Good morning, everybody. Welcome to The Skinny. It's the last Friday in April 25th, 2025. My name is Ray Roa. I'm the editor-in-chief of the Bay Area's nearly 40-year-old alt weekly, Creative Loafing, and I'm live in the studio today. Mitch Perry, co-founder of this show and senior reporter at the Florida Phoenix, is not here today. He's back in Tallahassee and probably staying longer than he expected. That's because Florida Senate President Ben Albritton dropped the news yesterday afternoon that the state's 60-day legislative session will not end as scheduled at the end of next week, mostly due to disagreement between the House and the Senate on their budgets, and specifically on these competing sales tax packages, which we've talked about a little bit on this show. So we'll see if Mitch makes it back next week. But that's kind of out of our control. We were hoping he's going to be here, but we'll see. I am pretty lucky today, though, in that I am joined by Creative Loafing's new-ish managing editor and founder of the Axios Tampa Bay newsletter, Celine Sanfelice. Celine, I don't know who's running the office right now, but thank you for being here today. Yes, we will figure it out. We will figure that out, and we'll get your mic turned up as well. I think a lack of control is something that a lot of people are feeling right now. Our guest in the studio, we kind of caught the tail end of the NPR news, and sometimes that feels a little bit so out of reach for you. But there are ways to kind of fight back against that. And that's by changing the world immediately around you. We're going to talk about that concept along with sustainability, community, and more today for the entire hour with a trio of guests who've also made the trek to our Tampa studio today. Joining us today in studio, Callie Rabot, a florist and founder of Tampa's Blue House Florals. Nick Ewing, musician, chef, and founder of Artistry Gardens based on Temple Terrace. And of course, also joining us
is Carla with St. Pete Youth Farm.
Carla Bristow, director of the St. Pete Youth Farm, is here today. Thank you all so much for coming to WMNF today.
Thank you for having us.
And you all sound
Glad
good.
to be here.
There you go, Nick. I know Nick's not afraid of a mic, so
I usually don't need one.
Yeah. Callie, I want to start with your operation based in Tampa Heights, where, correct me if I'm wrong, it's about 3,000 square feet there. You've grown quite a garden. When my kid was going to school in South Tampa, I used to drive by if I had to take a shortcut there off of Columbus, and it's hard to miss. It's just this burst of color on the side of the street. The house is actually blue, and often there are just like flowers everywhere. I've been there to pick up flowers for my wife there. It's this really special place that you've cultivated. Can you talk a bit about what is, for one, growing at Blue House and what it's like to kind of wake up in your office, per se?
That's a great question.
Thanks so much. So I am a florist, and thanks for getting flowers for your wife. And I grow most of the flowers at my garden, which is at my home in Tampa Heights. And I really love being able to just wake up and, be in my office. When I had kids, I wanted something that was flexible and part-time, and like being at a desk was not going to work for me. And so it's amazing to put my hands in the dirt and walk through all the flowers and see my neighbors and watch people slow roll by in their cars or their bikes or whatever, and just like roll down their window and be like, "Hey, I like your garden," or like, "Thanks for the helping the pollinators." And it's a pretty good life.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. You started doing something on social media every Monday where you kind of give people a tour of your garden. And it's so interesting because, like you said, as we're driving by, we do notice flowers and we see them and we slow down for them. Can you give us an idea of what's growing maybe right now and just in general at Blue House? Like, what are we seeing there?
Yeah, it is always changing. So I grow cut flowers. But I also like to use native flowers and Florida-friendly flowers as well. So having a really diverse diverse planting helps me and helps all the pollinators as well. But right now we have this beautiful kind of intersection of like the cool flowers left over from the winter time and the spring flowers and the summer flowers. It's a great mashup. So I have everything from marigolds and zinnias and sunflowers, amaranth, celosia, which are your warbler flowers. And then cooler things like larkspur and snapdragons. We have lisianthus coming in, blanket flower. So, I mean, it's an incredible diversity right now.
That's awesome. And I wanted to kind of, you're here, you're doing it, you're deep in it. You weren't always in the flower business. You're obviously using organic soil at your house, but you're also the founder of Suncoast Compost. Your job literally used to be making food dirt again. That was kind of your thing. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, again, that business signed businesses up, gave them compost bins. Your team collected the food scraps and then sent them over to Tampa's Meacham Urban Farm. Customers could then either pick up their compost twice a year or donate it to the farm right next to, it's actually Malfunction Junction pretty much, right there. I think at some point you always thought you would be a farmer florist, as you kind of alluded to, but there was a tragedy in your family about 5 years ago that set you on this path a little bit sooner. Can you talk about the decision to move away from the compost business and sustainability on a more forward, front-facing, explicit way and pivot to Blue House? Like, what was it there that happened?
Yeah, so I come from a more creative background, musical theater.
She does singing telegrams, people.
It's the secret menu. But yeah, I performed at Busch Gardens and the Straz, and so I used to do it professionally, and then fell into composting as a way to just solve a problem in our community. We need composting options desperately, and I know that Carla over here will also talk about that. But one of the solutions we offered was this service, and I was really grateful to be able to do that, but I was just hungering for something creative again. And my husband planted some zinnias. And zinnias are the gateway drug to cut flowers.
Okay.
So I kind of started playing with them, and I found some other farmer florists over in Orlando and elsewhere across the U.S. And I was like, that looks really cool. I'll do that when I retire. But then COVID happened, and we're all home and gardening a lot. And my brother passed away from cancer in 2020. So I just kind of realized that you don't always get a chance to retire. And so just taking that realization and being home and doing the gardening, I was like, let's do it. So yeah, we eventually sold the compost business, so the service is still going if you need an option under renewable compost now. But I've gotten to now transition to doing this farmer florist thing full time.
What was your brother's name?
Micah. Yes.
Micah.
He would be so proud.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I want to ask you just real quick for our audience, could you just quickly explain what cut flowers are?
Yeah. I mean, they're flowers that you cut, but to put them in a vase. So they hold up in a vase well in water. Some flowers may be beautiful on the plant, but then you cut them and then like in a day they're done. So cut flowers are just flowers that hold up in a vase.
Okay. And by the way, if you're just joining us, the voice you're hearing belongs to Callie Rabo, a florist and founder of Tampa's Blue House Florals. Just one of three guests in the studio with Celine Sanfelice and I today as we talk about changing the world around you, sustainability, and other things. If you'd like to join the conversation, please call us at the studio, 813-239-9663. Irene will get you in the queue. You can also text us, 813-433-0885, or email dj@wmnf.org. Callie, one more question real quick. I'm curious about how sustainable you thought Suncoast Compost was. You kind of alluded to your decision to move. Like, are you relieved to be doing flowers instead? I'm kind of trying to set up a question for Nick here. Like,
Me.
Is it nice to like be away from that? Like, do you think people are still into sustainability? Like, was it a precarious business?
No, I think people want it so bad. I think there's so much demand. People know that it's stupid to put our food waste in the trash. And yeah, people, once they find out that there's solutions around them, they want to jump on and get in. Nobody's like, I like putting my food in the trash. But personally, I'm very happy to not be dealing with smelly food waste anymore and doing the prettier side of it. So the flowers grew out of the compost, but we need it all.
Yeah, I'm scared now. You said that zinnias are a gateway drug. I planted some on top of my dog's grave who just passed, and they're starting to come up. So now I'm kind of scared that he's like haunting me with this. This opens up the door for Nick. Nick, you are a beekeeper, you're a musician, you're a gardener, farmer, founder of Artistry Gardens. It's tucked away behind an office complex off of 56th Street and Temple Terrace there. It's a great space. It's big. It's so much shade. Last Monday, Artistry held a 12 Hours for Earth concert. There's a market. There was a gathering in Ybor City. You wanted to showcase to the district's businesses your approach to sustainability. How did that go?
I've been telling people kind of the simple three lines. It was successfully executed, but sadly it was poorly attended. You know, we were hoping to raise funds and awareness and advocacy for what Callie and I and everyone here does. And in an inspirational way, we have to do it. What Callie was mentioning about people wanting sustainability. We want it whether we like it or not. And I think that's kind of the push of the message that we wanted to showcase for the event last Monday, and we had a blast. I mean, the music was tight. We had 8 different musicians, all friends of mine from the organics and sustainability sector, some of which had never been on that kind of stage before. And I remember that as a kid, holy mackerel, 12 years ago, starting at Crowbar, and Tom being like, yeah, you should come up and play something. And,
that is how Tom talks.
That's I tried to rip my shirt sleeves off for that one, but the element of being able to give somebody their first time creating and curating something like that was very special for me. And honestly, a homage to you, Callie and Paul, for getting me completely into this, because if it wasn't for you, it would have taken me longer to get into this. And I'm trying to continue, as I tell people, it's on growing. It's on growing. Everything is on growing. But the event was wonderful. We had Coalition of Community Gardens, Symphonic Distribution, Creative Loafing, Homegrown Hillsboro, Kiza Produce, Renewable was there, myself, Artistry Gardens. We were selling honey, vegetables, organics. So the concept was excellent. We had a really lovely time. But I think Monday, right after Easter, right after the Pope died, definitely put a little hampering on attendance. But other than that, Tom's excited to try to host another one as soon as possible and doing sort of an indoor situation. And I hope the goal that comes from that is that other venues will be like, oh, that's great to do in the summer. It's way too hot. Don't want to be outside. Let's try to do something inside and do another market pop-up kind of thing. And I think once people make it cooler, make sustainability cooler, I think everything will get cooler. Pun intended, climate intended, all of those different things. And I think that that's the only way to do it. If you don't make it cool, nobody wants to do it. And I think that folks like us are quite literally giving folks those opportunities to say, oh, this is cool. I support Callie. I support Nick. I go to these shows. We do this thing. The bars are buying from us, that kind of thing. The cyclical microeconomy. If it's not there, we're kind of shooting ourselves in the foot. And I think that that's not fair to us, especially a future generation. So throw your seeds out.
Nick, you have you're known for this like immersive event space and having this network of farmers. How did you sort of get radicalized into sustainability?
That's a really interesting way to put it. I'll take that one. Radicalized. Wow, what a funny way to say it. I actually got really scared for being a part of the Homegrown Hillsboro Network the other day, just because of what's going on in the atmosphere these days. But I think what really pushed me was I started beekeeping in 2020, thanks to Paul and Callie, and it is funny because it rhymes, but we started with 20 hives in 2020, and we've been running honey since 2020. And the whole element of it was, I realized, just like Callie was mentioning a couple minutes ago, is that I'm going to retire one day, and I think I'd really like to do beekeeping. And I realized that if I didn't start soon, I would never learn. And I think the longer you have to learn something, the better you're absolutely going to be at it. And that's why I'm continuing to do beekeeping and music and gardening and relationship building and real estate development, all these things that I want to do. You got to continue to do so. So that was probably the biggest push, is right during the COVID era. I was learning how I really wanted to be as close to the soil as I possibly could. I love to cook, so I really wanted to get fresh access to the best quality produce you could ask for, which is grown in your garden. So, and that's
you got a couple
this is the
little
radio,
guests
but
here.
explain what we have in front of us here.
I was at one of my private garden maintenances this morning, and the owner was with me, and he was making this whole concoction. They have power out there, so he brought his blender. I brought him honey. He had olive oil. He had pistachios, and we made a whole kind of like a nasturtium gremolata honey dressing vinaigrette, what I like to call a garden honey vinaigrette. We have in this basket, which has underneath of it, there is a sheet of what is on the top of beehives. It's the Callie, I can't remember the name. I'm going to call it a bee blanket, but I know that's not the correct term. But I brought that with mint, sage, nasturtiums, one of my favorite plants, Cuban oregano, also Vicks flower with another species, which I didn't get a chance to bring. I also brought some nasturtiums and marigolds. So you could eat everything in that thing. And I wanted to showcase. And I thought, what was really funny is Callie and I are walking in, and we could do some plant ASMR. We're pulling the, touching the...
You could. I know. I don't think you love subbing with Next Door, but that sounds like something like... There's definitely a show on MNF for that. And just to be clear, we're not breaking the no food rule here. It's a nice basket. It's very clean. Nick, more than anybody that I kind of know, you've always been on a mission, whether it's like to try and help the music scene and things like that. It's always been very purpose driven and huge on the things that you believe in is this concept of food sovereignty, right? That is, in my understanding, a kind of a market and corporate shunning, people-focused, extremely local idea that people have a right to healthy and culturally appropriate food. Is that really possible here in the Bay Area?
If my idiot self could do this, anyone can, and I mean that very much so. And in my line of thinking, there is a room for everyone in the garden. There is room for everyone here. I have this spiritual thinking that we're already in heaven, and I think it's just atrocious the way that we treat it. And I think that by gardening and working with other people and creating these little microcosms and catalysts amongst people, that's going to make the best renaissance anybody could ever ask for. And if that's the way that we get to grow it, I want to be one of the first people to do so. And I think that that's the only way to get the next generations to be excited about it and think it's cool and do it. And yeah, so everyone can garden. People with some hands, no hands, there is something to do for everyone in the garden. If I had someone that could just come with me and record data that I'm picking up when I'm harvesting this, I could showcase the output. Currently, I'm at a point where I think that per square foot, people could have $4 to $12 per square foot in just organic gardening output if they're actually doing it throughout the season. And I think that that's obtainable, and I think it's possible. And I'm trying to showcase to people how we can do it. Otherwise, we're all going to starve, and the bees are going to die, and then so are we. And I don't want to let that happen.
Yeah, I should have a full disclosure. About a week ago, Nick was over at my house because we had to cut down a giant oak tree, and there was a beehive in it. And we're trying to get the bees to somewhere safe before the big truck came to take all the stuff. So Nick removed some bees. You gave some marigold seeds to my son, and he's since planted them in a piece of the tree. They're sprouting now, and he's very excited that you're here. He's on a flight over to Connecticut, but yeah, I'm watering his plants for him while he's gone. So, just those little things that you do. By the way, if you're just joining us, the voice you're hearing belongs to Nick Ewing. He's a musician, chef, and founder of Artistry Gardens based in Temple Terrace. He's just one of 3 guests in the studio with Celine Sanfelice and I today. We're talking about changing the world around you, sustainability, other things like that. Feel free to send us a text. You can call us, email dj@wmnf.org to join in. And that kind of brings us to Carla here. Carla Bristol, you are somebody who's really seeing these concepts of sustainability and in a lot of ways food sovereignty play out right in front of you in your role as director of the St. Pete Youth Farm. That's over at 1664 12th Street South. You're actually hosting the farm's 5th annual St. Pete Earth Day this weekend. And we can't talk about what things cost on this nonprofit radio station, even if they're free. But you'll be out there on Saturday from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. this event, to me at least, really embodies so much of what makes the farm amazing, between the workshops, the games, and the music. Can you talk about what that day is like for you, and what it's like to welcome everyone to the farm on that particular day?
Well, every year it gets better. Thank you so much for having me. Talking about agriculture and farming and the work we do, which is centered around community and around young adults, youth, and everything we do is youth informed. So I always tell people, and anybody who's listening that knows me knows, I'll say this every time. I am not the youth in the youth farm. They're actually young. I'm youthful, but I am not the youth in the youth farm. So, I mean, you definitely could not have written the script that I would be doing this work 6 years ago when I started. So when you talked about there being something for everyone in the garden space, it's really true, because I was very clear. I still don't watch YouTube videos about how to grow food. I learn intuitively from mistakes is what would be important, right? And it's a lot of problem solving that I think people could learn. But if you come out tomorrow, as we've done the last 4 years, there's going to be a sense of culture, which for me, culture is food. So there's going to be fresh bread that we're baking in our nicely donated commercial bread oven. We're doing workshops now around sourdough bread making. We're already started the pesto. We're known for our collard greens pesto. So you're going to be able to try the collard green pesto with the fresh made bread. And there's, art. We have canvases and eco-friendly paint from Deco Art. There's music, so there's a saxophonist that's going to perform. One of our youth, that's a local rapper, he's going to perform. At work, he's Keandre. He gets on stage, he's Key Money, and he knows how to do it. And people will get to have tours, they'll get to experience our aquaponics system. They'll see the no-smell zone, which is in fact the compost area.
Okay.
And so much more.
Yeah, I wanted to hop in. If you live in and around the St. Pete area, I think you really should check out the St. Pete Youth Farm, because Carla, I live close to it, and I started, this was before the city of St. Petersburg was making you take like a little class before you get your home compost bin. But I was like, I can compost at home. And I just started throwing my food waste like basically onto the ground in this little black thing in my yard. And I got roaches. I got, it was just like sort of turning either to wet or dust. And I was like, this is like way too hard. And I started trying to look at like compost, basically like service options. And I went somewhere and someone told me, oh, you can do this. It's like $20 a month. And I was like, I have to take $20 a month to have someone take my food waste. And you had just launched the St. Pete Youth Farm community compost program. And I go every 2 weeks. I give you my bucket. And it's like every time I go, it becomes more and more amazing. Like the first time I went to drop off my bucket after I'd picked it up, you guys had just started that oven, and you were like, oh, do you want some like freshly made pizza? And I was like,
no.
What?
Absolutely not.
And that's a different oven. That's a clay. That's the brick oven.
Literally every time I go, it is so like it's literally growing. This is not just like a little fenced off bunch of weeds community garden. This is a really big deal, and everyone I meet there every time I go is so lovely. So it's really awesome to have you here.
Thank you. Nice to hear you say that.
It's been about 6 years since the founding of the farm. It was established to provide access to nutritious food in South St. Pete. The plot's actually less than an acre. As you mentioned, you guys have a kitchen out there, wood-fired oven. You got that $10,000 grant last year to help with composting. It's like nice, like super legit, like awesome, really cool place. Same with Callie. Can you just talk about what's growing over there in those pots and like what it's like to not just watch food grow, but watch people grow as well?
Yeah. So it's funny you said that, because the first thing I was going to say is just watching the young people grow, right? So I am now a community grandma. So young people over the last 6 years have gotten married, had children, gone off to the military, in their various career fields, but then they still come back. I still get text messages that this is my new phone number, right? I still provide support for young people. I still pull up on them in the street, like beeping my horn and pulling up on them. But so right now we still have collards, thus the collard green pesto, which we're going to call end of season pesto. And that's it. I'm not making any more after this. So until the collard green festival. But we have collards. We still have a lot of curly kale. We have a lot of scallions and jalapenos, and we have 5 banana circles. We have papaya, loquat, which we just finished eating so much. Lots of mulberries right now, and so this week, within less than 24 hours, we gave away roughly 50. Almost 60 trees, small trees of bananas, loquat, fig, mangoes. But I mean, I literally didn't even have to put a social media post out. I was able to just send someone across the street, hey, ask the neighbors, do they want trees? The city had a big event on Tuesday for Harbor Day, and then when that was all done, they still had plants left, and they gave it to us. Say, hey, Carla, would you like these? Yes, we want them. And then here comes the people, right? Just make a few phone calls. Hey, I just got delivered these plants. Do you want some? A local school near us with smaller children, another academy around the corner came and picked up some. But it's those stories that I get to hear. The one mother yesterday she said, my son came on a field trip to the farm, and he still has, I guess I must have had some prize for if you remembered everything I said or something, but she said he still has the $5 single dollar bills that you gave him, and now we have a home garden, we have chickens, and she said now we actually eat home and cook together more as a result of him visiting the farm. So that's the reality of the impact of the work. It's just, it continues to sing. One kid that I met yesterday that came from the school next door, Midtown Academy, they had, it's the garden club at Midtown. So all these kids came, and one little kid he said, do you know me? And I said, no, I don't know you. And, but I held his hand, I lifted him up so he can see inside the tank. Afterwards, later on, the mother texted me and said, he did everything he was supposed to. It was me. I told him all about you. And she said, he came home singing your praises. I was supposed to give you the heads up that he was coming so that when you saw him, you would, she said, all I'm hearing about now is Miss Carla, Miss Carla, Miss Carla. So she's bringing him. She said, no, it's been in my calendar, but I'm bringing him on Saturday, because now it's so you're hearing these stories and you're just living life, right? I get to do everything I love doing, especially creating a space that's super duper special for this community where you can come and, no different than me having an art gallery, come and hang out. So it is probably one of the best hangout spaces in St. Petersburg, hands down.
100%.
And South St. Pete specifically. As somebody who's not from St. Petersburg, born in Guyana in South America, raised in Brooklyn, New York, and now living here, not living the corporate dream, just living the dream, doing the work I'm doing.
An edible art gallery.
Yep, lots of art everywhere. Lots of art everywhere.
There's a lot of art in the garden. I hate to interject, but there's so much. I think that's the neat thing about it. You can go to an art gallery and things will change. You can go to a garden and things will change, just like you mentioned. There's so much to be seen. There's so much to be smelt. There's so much to taste. There's so much to hear. I love to play jazz in my garden. I like to play Alexis on Fire in my garden. I like to do all of it. I think that you can, everyone's got their own vibe, especially when you have other people come through, kids, adults. I have a garden fairy. She's German and French, and so I'm getting all of her house vibes all the time, and it just changes the mood and the culture, and I think it absolutely makes the food taste better.
Yeah, I want you to listen to the wind chimes. So I had purchased a wind chime for the farm while waiting, because I kept saying, I need this sound to just be special, and actually someone from Pennsylvania, not even from here, kept saying, I want to buy a wind chime, and said they spent 2 hours to pick the right sound. When that wind chime arrived and we put it up, I'm telling the truth. I took down the one I purchased because now that one sounded, it was beautiful before, but this new one sounded so, the sound was incredible. We do mindful movement at the farm. And so there's just this vibration. Now I have 3 of them. So it doesn't matter where you go in the farm. This is this, I call it now the farm sound. And just the sheer amount of butterflies that are popping up. But I will say, I've known Callie for a few years. I was able to check out the Blue House. It is everything you said and then some. But yeah, like when you were talking to me about composting back then, I was like, who wants to do this? And so now it's hilarious that now we have about 150 folks participating in our compost initiative. Now that we figured out how to do it, and then still make it a no-brainer decision for people who are composting with us to divert all this waste from the landfill and create 100% of the soil that's used at the farm is created at the farm. 100% of everything we use to fertilize, everything we grow, is created through our aquaponics system. We farm raise tilapia.
Wow.
So yeah, we have multiple worm bins. So as somebody, like I said, who wasn't quote unquote, I would have said I wasn't a green thumb, before starting this. And now I could tell you there's probably no such thing as I don't have a green thumb. It's just you don't have the knowledge yet.
Wow. And by the way, if you're just joining us, the voice you're hearing belongs to Carla Bristol. She's the director of the St. Pete Youth Farm. She's just one of 3 guests in the studio today with Celine Sanfelice and I, as we talk about changing the world around you, sustainability, amongst other things. You can call in 813-239-9663. You can text 813-433-0885 or dj@wmnf.org. If you have a question, if you have a comment, anything like that. Carla, you're talking about your conversation with Callie, first seeing the composting process and thinking, no way, who would do this? And I think, as Celine alluded to, a lot of people kind of have that kind of reaction at first. But, sometimes when people want to succeed at something, they need to hear from somebody else about like that moment when it changes. Do you remember the moment for you when you realized that I can compost and that it does work? Because you're doing it all on site there. Like, you have the stinky bin.
So I could tell you, when I first started doing the work, everybody started coming at me saying, oh, are you going to be composting? Are you going to be composting? And these are my honest words. I kept thinking in my mind, we're not a dump site. So no, the young people that work here, they're here for a different reason. It was the moment when we received a donation of, I think it was 3,200 buckets. Very similar to how a lot of things were born, including our mini garden workshop was born because I got 7 pallets of milk crates. And then we ended up doing workshops around how you can do a mini garden. So likewise, when I received those 3,200 buckets, orange buckets, and I had been to New York to visit my parents, and I saw on the way to the subway, wait a minute, they have a truck. People are bringing their frozen compost that they have, had in their freezer on the way to work, on the way to the subway, or they're dropping it off and going back home. And this would have been probably either December of 2021 or something like that, or 22. And I kept thinking, this is something we can actually do, but we don't have like the bus stop with all the people. We don't have the subway. And I kept thinking, man, I got to do this. So the postcard that I give you, that I give out as my business card, I literally replicated what I saw in New York and said, well, in order for me to make this happen in St. Petersburg, I first have to train people on what we will accept and what we will not accept, right? So I used the New York, what I saw in New York as the model, so that now the community begins to learn. And then when I received all those buckets, I'm like, that's what I do with these. That's why I said yes on the buckets, because people wanted me to grow food in them. I said, no, I know what I'll do. We'll launch our community compost with it, and partnered with Local Shops One that gave us that donation. Like, this is a perfect tie-in. And, it hasn't failed us because, people scan the QR code. They tell us the quantity they're dropping off. And then once a quarter, we give them, and I'm going to tell you, we give them what I call finished enriched compost. Less than probably 5% of people actually want it for gardening. What they want to do is divert the waste. So yes, I think on the onset you talked about whether or not there's an interest, if there's this movement. I think people are beginning to get it. And the fact that you make it a no-brainer decision for them. And it's one of the biggest, easiest ways for us to do outreach for people to find out about the farm. is to give you a no-brainer way to solve an issue and to show you that, as you were saying, there's something for everyone to do and contribute. So it doesn't have to be monetary. So, you bring us your food scraps and we got you.
Yeah, I really appreciate that aspect of it, not being tied to money. I feel like there are so many places where they try and sell you on sustainability by saying, like, if you make this choice to buy something super overpriced with us, then you're doing something for the planet. And what they're actually doing is basically like trying to sell me their trash, or make me pay to send them my trash. And we all want to do our best, but talk to me about like the difference between accessibility and availability for all of you.
I cannot wait to hear you answer this question.
So funny, because these words come out of my mouth all the time and have for many years, that, not everything that's available is accessible. So I was talking to you guys about the new patio area that was built at the farm, and I intentionally talked about bringing plays to the farm where the people actually are, right? So a lot of times people say, look what I've done, come here, look at this. And this may not, whether because of generational issues, right, financial issues. One of the things I talk about is that when you show up at the farm, I don't ask you for your zip code, your address, your income. No different than if you walk into Macy's or any other store. These aren't the things people ask you. I just know you're there, and we have food that we're growing and that you can have it, and we want to help provide it. So I think a great question in terms of not everything that's available, even if it's free, is accessible, because maybe you don't have a car, So I have no issues with, if there's an elderly person in my community, as long as somebody can call me, I'm like, I'll drop it to your door. And that's just what we do, is how we find ways to help.
Do you feel like St. Petersburg has made strides in addressing the food desert issues that it has?
I will tell you that one of the terms that I least like in doing the work that I'm doing is this whole food desert term. I think the term food desert is something created by people who are not familiar with communities that lack access. So I think it's an access issue, and the desert term is used for funding. So, and I see it in funding, and then it's become so popular that now everybody uses it. And I have yet to meet anybody in my community who would have said, we live in the desert. If we want to say that, in the desert, they're growing some amazing, incredible things because people know how to adapt to environment. This summer, we're going to be growing a lot of okra, right? We're going to, so I think that the idea that we're giving out fruit trees. In May, I'm giving out 150 mulberry bushes, because when I started, I discovered mulberries at the farm. I hadn't had mulberries before, and then when we started growing mulberries and I was posting about it, what do you think people were saying? Oh, back in the day, there was a mulberry tree on every corner. So when the Office of Sustainability asked me, hey, Carla, what kind of trees do you want? I said, I asked for 300, if I'm being honest. I was like, I'd like 300 mulberry. And they said, well, we can get you 150. So I tell, this is a lesson for young people. You want 150, ask for 300. You'll get your 150. 100%. But in May, that's what we're going to be doing. So I honestly believe that the city has a serious focus, has an entire initiative wrapped around this, and the St. P.U. Farm is just one such initiative. And we're grateful that they allow it to be and feel just like the community that it's in.
And by the way, we have a text from Bubba. He says that Carla is amazing, and he's wondering if you've ever been a guest on WMNF's Sustainable Living Show. Have you been on that show yet, Carla?
Annie Ellis does that, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, yeah, okay, probably not. You would remember. So no, not yet, Bubba.
She's a busy woman.
It sounds like that's a thing that's overdue here. And maybe this leads into my next question here. I was reading about the tree planting initiatives in Childs Park neighborhood in the context of some of these federal cuts related to environmental justice. Community leader Jabbar Edmond has said he's resolved to do the work with or without help from the feds. But you talk about the farm. It was initially funded with money from the city and the Foundation for a Healthy St. Petersburg. That was a $200,000 grant. At what point Ford Motor Company helped with a $25,000 grant in 22. How worried are you about the Youth Farm's future in this political climate that we're living in?
I am not worried at all. I sleep good, and I'll tell you why. Federal or otherwise, everything moves based on the vote. And so if you're worried about, I call it counting pennies, missing dollars. What I'm worried about is making sure that the community that needs it gets it, and that the people around us understand why we're doing what we're doing. And I actually have a belief system that because we have the money, it's here already. We don't need that money. For the record, I'm not turning down it. But what I'm saying is that individually, collectively, we have it. So Jabbar, who I know well, is absolutely correct. We have never stopped moving forward on anything. We actually do what we say we're going to do. We stand on that, and everything that we need happens every single time. We're trying to build something at the farm, and the person who's going to build it said, I can't do it. A day later, I get a call from the construction company building the courthouse downtown St. Pete to say, hey, we saw some, we found out about you. We want to help. And I'm like, wow, I actually do need to talk to you. So it works. The universe conspires, as they say. So the way we talk about it is the established tree. Let's call me the established tree, right? So I'm not doing this work because I was some successful gardener or had a past with that. Only thing I promised was to provide credibility to the work because I already had relationships with young people in the community. And I've done that and then some. So for me, leveraging my social capital to ensure that the very best of everything is accessible to our community, I'm confident that the community will respond should we have that. But we're building it in such a way that there's so many hands that touches the farm that I don't have to do anything but sit back, and the people will take care of whatever needs to be taken care of to make sure the young people have jobs, which is better for us, that they learn not just public speaking and mental health, which we do every single Monday at the farm for our young people and the community. But I just feel like all those people that are touching the farm in different ways, like I'll just sit back and we will know. I feel confident that if you're only doing it for the dollars, then it probably doesn't make sense at all. Like if you're doing it because you're passionate about whatever issue you're trying to solve, in our case, nutrition insecurity, uncovering the fact that mental health and wellness is significantly an issue in our community, if we're being honest, and there's a stigma around it that we're working to remove, then we're on the right track for the right reasons, and the help will come.
Yeah, so many different fibers coming together to create a very strong protective layer around that. We have about 10 minutes left, and you start to go to this existential place. Callie, I would want to go there with you. I don't want to get too messy on concepts and stuff, but what you do at Blue House Florals, you have cut flowers, but in a way it's, antithesis of the traditional cut flower market thing that we see in grocery stores and even other flower shops, where maybe the stems have traveled a really, really long way to get to you. I think sometimes they get dyed, and I'm not trying to, poop on all that, but
compost on it
or anything. But from a conceptual standpoint, what does it mean to give somebody flowers to you?
That's really nice. Yeah, flowers are so powerful to share messages that we just can't even quite put words to. And I truly feel so honored to be able to be like the midwife of the flowers being passed between hands. They come up in the most important, significant moments of our lives: weddings, births, I miss you, deaths. So I, as a botanical artist, I really just like to let the flowers kind of tell me what to do and speak for me. And in the garden, getting back to the art in the garden, the flowers sort of arrange themselves, and I just try and get out of the way. They show up in combinations and ways you wouldn't expect that just work. So Yeah, I think that the garden is just, I mean, you know, we can talk about all the bad stuff going on and all the climate change that we're seeing the effects of right here in our community, but also like, what do we want to build? So what are we doing right? And I think that every time you get to step into the garden, you are building something and you're helping point towards like what is good, what we want to create. So I really like, it makes me feel good to be able to operate from that place rather than a place of fear.
Yeah, for sure. And Nick, you're doing a lot of events. You know, you talked about you're just with somebody in the morning, you know, working on things, talking to people. You talk and demonstrate sustainability in front of some pretty significant and powerful people locally. What's the reception been like from them, and what role do folks like that play in changing the way our community not only talks about sustainability, but implements policies that support it too?
That's a great question. My biggest mission with working with folks who have the capacity to make that big of an impact is for them to make the impact. I think I told you the other day when we were picking up the bees, it's about maintaining the vibe. You have to just get these people to be excited about it with you, and you have to showcase that it is a big deal. And cathartically, hopefully, they will see the benefit from it. And I have some clients who I will take some of this produce to, and they won't do anything with it. So there is this part of where it's like, okay, cool, you didn't do anything with that. We're going to turn it into soil. Or we're going to take those seeds that came from that marigold and we're going to go plant more because you didn't use it. And sometimes you just don't use things, and that's okay. But getting people to compost, getting people to go to their garden, getting people to buy from other local gardens, it's difficult, especially when the system is so standard and you can just go somewhere and the flowers are there. All of your favorite things are right there. It's convenience. So doing this is difficult. Growing is hard. I could cry thinking about it. I want this to work so bad, and I want these people to make the impact to do it, because I feel so. When you answered that other question a couple minutes ago, like, how do you feel about what's happening? I can't sleep at night. I get really worried because I feel there's this like overwhelming existentialism that is just pushing on the framework of what makes this so beautiful. And I just hope for more people to say, oh, cool, I'm willing to invest in that, because at the end of the day, if someone can invest into something that is making a difference, that is how we're going to fight climate change. That is how we are going to fight these situations that are going against us and growing against us. And you got to make them be willing to do it, and you got to make it simple. You have to make it.
You do.
I can't do it. I'm learning that lesson myself, is I have to make these things simple on myself. Otherwise, I won't be able to do it. And if I can't do it, then other people can't see me do it. And if everybody can't see me do it, with the stage that I have, pun intended, playing music, being who and what I want to be, I just, I really want people to do it so badly, because I think I am so floored that the mothers that you are both are, and I'm terrified to have children because of the fear that there might not be an environment that they could be in. Ooh.
Oh, boy, you're doing it, buddy.
Yeah, sorry.
Doing it,
Yeah,
man.
no, it's great,
real.
man. I mean, you know, for those of you who don't know Nick, you know, he's very much hard on his sleeve, always has been, in the way that he performs on stage. I've seen you perform in many different ensembles, and the music kind of moves through you. And we've talked about this off mic over at my house. You know, I've known you for so long, and you've always just been doing the work. So, you know, hopefully you can rest a little easier doing that, and to kind of stay there on this thing about presence. Carla, you know, your farm has work days, but you've said in the past that one aspect of the farm is that there isn't this pressure on yourself to contribute to what's going on. You just want people to be there and to be present on site. Can you talk a little bit about what stillness feels like at the St. Pete Youth Farm and what it feels like inside when you're there?
So I'm not the one to still.
Okay. Okay.
So everybody knows that. But yeah, we are intentional about creating a space. Like soon you'll hear me launch within the next few months, that because this is how I vision. I think about what's the point of creating the space if people can't take a break for lunch and come sit and hang out at the farm? So like that's where I'm moving. I'm moving where whether you bring your lunch or we're making lunch and we want to invite you to come, like that's the magic of the city that I want people to live in. And it, again, it's not anything new. We're going back to the old ways of community and sharing. And so just being able to listen to the sounds that we have created, like people are noticing it who are at the farm. They're like, wow. And then they look up and they see this, these chimes, or you're looking and you're hearing the birds. Like you hear them a lot more. The thing that I kept saying years ago was, man, it's going to be cooler, no pun intended, at the farm than it is even across the street from the farm. And that will be the reality just because of the ground that we're transforming right beneath our feet. So every day, and people refer to it as magic, as do I, because it's just a magical place. So there's intention around every age group, every ability. So that young child that came yesterday that went home and told his mom, it was about the changes also. When you talked about changes in the garden, but changes in the space because we're young and so we're still building. And this morning, my partner said to me, he said, Carla, you're going to run out of space. Then what are you going to do? And I like that challenge.
You could build up, right?
We'll build up.
Yeah, that's right. By the way, Lenny from Gulfport said really likes the information on the show, wants to get looped in with everybody. So I will loop you in separately.
Thanks, Lenny.
Lenny. We've got about 3 minutes left here with our guests. And I suppose we'll close with this question for all of you. But you get to wake up and live this life. For a lot of people, their lives can get in the way.
Yeah.
You kind of alluded to some of this, but, in 30 seconds or so, what do you say to people who want to be more sustainable in their everyday lives? Can they grow flowers? Start a small garden? Like, what is it? What is the little thing? Like mental health, the little things that we do. So if somebody wants to be more like you, what is the first or little thing that they can do?
Don't put the pressure on yourself to start a garden. The first thing I teach when we do the mini garden workshop is don't think that I don't have a garden at my house because I'm doing all of this. So that's the first thing, is do the small thing that you can do. That's why that 1 square foot of space box, to show you can start right where you are. Don't undertake some large initiative because chances are you don't have the time that's required. This is all I do. Right? So that's different than someone that this is part of what they do. So just support a local place that's doing it. That's why our work day is only once a month, just for a few hours. So for me, if you come and read a book, I'm good.
Nick?
Callie, please.
Oh, Callie. What?
I really am feeling Dr. Ayanna Elizabeth Johnson's work right now. She has What If I Get This Right? And she has this Venn diagram that I would encourage people to think about. What are you good at? Your skills, resources, networks. What brings you joy? Sources of satisfaction and delight. And what work needs doing. So the climate justice solutions. And then where those things overlap, that's what you do. That's your action.
Nick, you get the last word here.
Last word would be kind of almost an echo of that, like the ikigai that people are looking for. And I read a book and it was, you did it, now what? And so the whole push of you have to continue growing. And you have to just start. And it's as simple as just doing the actual day in, day out of it, and just do it. Get started. If you have a dream, if you can think of it, if you can think of something, you can do it. Then without getting emotional again, that's the whole point. Yeah. Truly.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for spending the entire hour with us this morning. Thank you to the listeners for texting in and emailing in. We really appreciate that. Our guests today have been Callie Rabo, a florist and founder of Tampa's Blue House Florals; Nick Ewing, musician, chef, and founder of Artistry Gardens, based in Temple Terrace; and Carla Bristol, director of the St. Pete Youth Forum, which has an open house of sorts, big Earth celebration this Saturday. You can where can people find you guys? stpeteyouthforum.org.
stpeteyouthforum.org, Facebook, Instagram.
artistrygardens.com,
Instagram as well.
and bluehouseflorals.com as well. On behalf of myself, Ray Roa, my co-host here today, Celine Sanfelice, Skip Sassy on the boards for us this afternoon, Irene Matthews on the phones. Thank you so much for listening to WMNF Tampa. Joellen Schilke is in Studio One. The mood light is so nice, much better than the harsh white light that we have in here. Please stay tuned for that. Thank you to the Down and Dirty before us, and we hope you have a really great weekend and get your hands a little bit dirty. You're listening to WMNF Tampa.